What's going on, Falcons fans? Logan here. I am so excited to show you guys this video today. Not only are there a lot of cool Falcons topics to talk about in this video, like the draft and the offseason and other Falcons related things, but I have a very special guest joining me in this episode, and that is Tyler Crowder from the Kicking It with Crowder podcast. I'm sure a lot of you Falcons fans are familiar with him. All of his content will be in the link below. Please go make sure you check out his content because he works really hard on that stuff and you learn a lot from whatever he says. So go ahead and check out his content. I had a lot of fun talking about Falcons football with him, and I really hope you enjoyed this video and this collab with Tyler as well. Now, I do apologize for all the audio difficulties. I'm not really sure what was going on there, but I hope it's not too big of a deal. Anyway, I hope you all enjoy the video and rise up. What's going on, Falcons fans? Logan here. Welcome back to Rise Up Rundown, and if you're new here, welcome. So, in this video, we have a special guest with us that you all might be familiar with. Your name is Tyler. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Kicking It with Crowder. We have him today. We're going to be talking about some interesting Falcons stuff today. We'll be going over the offseason. We'll be going over the draft, everything Falcons related, and I'm so excited to have you on the show. Tyler, how are you doing?
I'm good, Logan, man. I appreciate you having me on. Doing pretty well. Thank you for asking.
No problem. So I'm happy to be discussing the draft and the offseason with you because I'm sure everyone has a lot of questions about who they're going to pick up and what they're going to do, because there's this big civil war going on about what's going to happen for the Falcons. But before we get into all of that, I wanted to start things off on kind of the lighter side of things. My first question for you is, what made you a Falcons fan, and how long have you been a fan?
All right, man. So basically, guys, my name's Tyler Crowder. I'm the host of Kicking It with Crowder. I cover basically all sports, but, big Falcons fan. I was born in Marietta, Georgia, Kennestone Hospital, for those that know that area, and moved to Columbus, Georgia, when I was about six years old or so. My first Falcons memory is the 1998. I was in fourth grade. They went to the Super Bowl, went 14-2, beat the Vikings in the NFC Championship, lost to the Broncos. So that's kind of my first memories of football was that season. So that's kind of when I became a fan. My dad was originally a Dolphins fan, but, living in Georgia, he's kind of converted to the Falcons as well. So been a fan since 98. And my favorite Falcons memory was probably shutting the Dome down versus Green Bay in 2016. The big victory over them to go to the Super Bowl and face the Patriots. And I was there at that game, and it was probably my favorite memory, up 31-0 and just knowing, you're going to the Super Bowl. That was a really awesome game. Nice way to shut out the Dome. And that's probably my favorite memory. And I can name a worse memory, but I think everyone already knows that, so we don't even have to talk about that. Yeah, man. So that's.
You saw, were you there to see at the very ending where they were raising up the trophy and they were saying like a little speech, or did you leave like right after the game?
Yeah, no, I was down there. I actually was on the second level and kind of in the end zone. And then once the game was over, we went down to the bottom and we saw the whole presentation. Terry Bradshaw, was interviewing, and it was an awesome experience.
Yeah.
Getting to see that in the last game of the Georgia Dome. And then, I went to one of the first games at the new stadium as well on a Monday Night Football against the Giants. That was a good experience too. So I like the new stadium, but there's nothing like the old Georgia Dome.
Yeah. Both stadiums, I've been to only one game in both stadiums. The Georgia Dome was the 2015 Falcons and Panthers, which I'll even admit I didn't even think they were going to win, but they did. And the other one was the 2019 Sunday night game with the Eagles. That one I felt a little more confident in winning, but
I was at
man,
that game as well.
yeah,
I was at that game too.
that was a good game.
Yeah,
uh,
that was a great game.
Honestly, I didn't expect, I knew Eagles fans were crazy, but I didn't think they were going to be all over the place. But,
Yeah.
it kind of felt good to just kind of be around a lot of energy, like not even just with Falcons fans, but kind of a weird thing to say, but even like the energy from Eagles fans, it kind of brought in that sports feeling for me, like, oh yeah, it's going down.
Yeah.
um,
And that's the thing. When Vic returned with the Eagles, he returned the Eagles on like a Sunday night game as well, or a Monday night game. And I was there as well, and that was an unreal experience. He ended up getting knocked out of the game in that game with a concussion, but I just remember the fans, the Eagles fans. They're everywhere. They travel very well. So I will give the Eagles fans that, but we did get the victory that night. Julio, of course, took the screen, 40, 50 yards to the end zone. That was awesome.
that was I both games. Like I had Julio jump over Luke Kuechly and then take it all the way against the Eagles. I'm like, Julio, I think just like I got lucky to see him win it for us. Oh
Yeah.
man. So when you watched Michael Vick play, what was the energy from the Falcons fan base? Was it kind of like angry? Was it like not what you expected? Like what was it like just seeing a former Falcon and then seeing him in a
I
different
mean, no,
uniform?
there were a lot of people wearing Vic jerseys. The old
Oh,
Falcons Vic
wow.
jerseys. I mean, there was a lot of support for him. I mean, of course, there were some, fans who, were booing and things like that, but majority of the stadium was, appreciative of what Mike Vick did for the Atlanta Falcons. It was an unfortunate situation that happened with Mike Vick, but I think he bounced back and made the most of it. And, people get second chances. So, I don't hold anything against Mike Vick. He was a great player for the Atlanta Falcons. Wish he could have done more. If he would have been more dedicated like he was later in his career with the Falcons, who knows what could have happened. But Mike Vick is an Atlanta Falcons great and always will be.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really hold too much against Vic either, because everyone makes mistakes. Now, should he have done what he did? No, but at the same time, it's like, well, I mean, he still brought in some great things for us when he was here. So it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
well,
he
at least
changed.
it
He
wasn't pointless.
changed the whole culture of the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, exactly. He was definitely the most entertaining Falcon, I think.
Oh yeah,
Julio
for
Jones is up there, but oh man, but yeah,
sure. Yeah.
I mean, I was barely alive for him, but I know around that time, I remember there were a lot of people, like a lot of teachers at my school, they would talk about him, and I kind of didn't exactly know who that was, but I had a good idea that he was like this entertaining, flashy kind of quarterback.
Yeah.
But now I guess the entertainment is in Julio. I don't know, but
I
man.
mean, yeah, the Falcons have some exciting young players. I mean, yeah, you have the veterans Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, but you have some young guys. Calvin Ridley. I think he is turning into what everyone thought he could be coming out of Alabama. He's a
Yeah,
polished receiver, runs great routes. He's kind of in 2 to 3 years, I'm sure the Atlanta Falcons envision him as the number one wide receiver. I mean, he's a great number two. If Julio can stay healthy, Calvin Ridley, and then we'll talk a little bit about the draft pick here in a little bit. But if they could add, a guy, 84 out of Florida, Kyle Pitts. I mean, that's
yeah.
it's hard to stop in that offense with Arthur Smith. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's true. They got a lot of younger guys coming in. I think even on the defense, like AJ Terrell is kind of a younger, like potentially exciting player coming in. Grady Jarrett's kind of entertaining. There's a lot of, there's a lot of new players coming in. I think the Falcons, while a lot of people might not think their Super Bowl expectations for 2021, they might
Yeah.
not be as far away as you might think because there's some good players coming in. But
Yeah. I mean, they have 7 to 8 guys who they can build with.
yeah,
AJ Terrell is an awesome piece to have, going forward. If you could possibly draft, there's a lot of cornerbacks, J.C. Horn. There's also Surtain out of Alabama. That's my guy in this draft. You'd probably trade back if you could trade back and get one of him and pair him with AJ Terrell in that secondary. Now you have two young pieces to build with on rookie contracts, and it's all about how you build the roster, what you're able to do. I mean, there's so many possibilities here with the Atlanta Falcons at number 4. It really depends on what San Francisco does at 3.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really, everyone says it's Mac Jones, but, is it really Mac Jones? Could they surprise everyone and go Kyle Pitts and pair him with George Kittle? Could they go Justin Fields? They could go Trey Lance. I mean, that's really what is going to determine what the Falcons do. I'm guessing the Falcons wait to draft, trade, or, decide what they're going to do. Draft. I'm guessing that's what they're going to do. They'll probably be able to get the most for the pick that night, if they can trade the pick while they're on the clock. But, at the end of the day, I'm going to trust Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith and what they decide to do. I feel like, he has earned that respect. 17 years with the Saints, had great drafts with the Saints. At the end of the day, we can argue quarterback. We can argue playmaker at the end of the day. I'm not sure if I want to take a quarterback at 4 and sit him for 2 years. I just don't know if that's the right thing to do building a roster. I just don't. And Matt Ryan's contract, you pretty much are tied to him for the next 2 years. I mean, that's just you're tied to him for 2 years, and after that, yes, you can cut him and or trade him or do whatever you want. But at the end of the day, Matt Ryan is not the problem with the Atlanta Falcons. Mm-hmm. Let's just get that out of the way. He's not the problem. There's many holes on this roster: offensive line, defensive line. We haven't had an edge rusher in a long time. Safety, we're going to have to replace safeties. We could use another linebacker. I mean, we could use a lot of things. So let's not all just point at Matt Ryan like a lot of people do. Yes, he gets all the credit when it's going good, and he gets all the credit when it's going bad. But, I mean, at the end of the day, he can only do so much. He can only do what's around him. We could use an offensive lineman. We could use Sewell. We could use Pitts. We could use a quarterback. Yes, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not going to get mad if we draft a quarterback, but I feel like there are other things you can do. You could trade back, possibly pick up 2 first-round picks, and maybe a second-round pick. I mean, you can really, reshape the franchise with something like that. But if you're sold on a guy at 4, you stay at 4 and you pick him. So it's interesting to see. We've talked about it for months. No one knows what's going to happen. So I'm excited to see what happens. And I can give the best analysis that I can. I've done a lot of research on the pick, listened to a lot of different writers, a lot of different Falcons, personnel and things like that. I've heard them talk and watch these videos. So we'll see what happens. No one really knows. I think Terry Fontenot is going to get who he wants to get, and we'll see what happens.
I agree. It seems like every day, like the stance on who we're going to get changes. Like, it's like, one day you see Falcons are open to trading down, and then you're like, they're going to trade down. And then it's like Terry Fontenot will be at the QB pro camp. It's like, oh, we're getting a QB. And then they interview Kyle Pitts. It's like, okay, I don't even know. Yeah, they're doing a good job.
I mean, that's good. You don't want people knowing what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good thing. You don't want people knowing what you're going to do.
It's not even just for the fans. You don't want the teams to know what you're doing because, you might say, oh, we're getting this player, and then, the team above us gets that player, and it's like, okay, well.
Yeah.
But
yes.
My second question, speaking of players, who is your favorite Atlanta Falcons player of all time? And it can be past or present.
Yeah, well, we've already talked about him a little bit. Julio Jones, most electric wide receiver, top 5 wide receiver to me in the NFL all time. Definitely top 10, but to me, top 5 receiver. Just what he's been able to do coming in with all those expectations. Coming in at number 6 overall, and what we traded to get him. He's shown up. He doesn't say much. He just goes there and does his job. And I watched him at Alabama. I was at an Auburn-Alabama game in 2009, his sophomore year. and he took over in the fourth quarter. And I've kind of kept up with him ever since, and he's beat every expectation. Yeah, he could score a little bit more touchdowns, I guess, but at the end of the day, the guy's the number one wide receiver all time, yards per game. He's going to break a lot of records. May not come down with, may not beat a bunch of Jerry Rice's records, but he can come very close to a lot of records. And he's just a polished receiver. He goes out there, he does his job. He's not a diva. He's not in the news. He only hear good things about him, and he's my favorite. Also love Matt Ryan as well, but just Julio Jones. No, I can't say enough about the guy. But Julio Jones is definitely my number one wide receiver on the Falcons all time, and my favorite Falcons of all time.
I'm definitely going to agree with that one. Julio is my favorite too. I think everything you said about him is true. Like, he's no diva. He stays off the news. He doesn't – because a lot of wide receivers nowadays, I feel like they're kind of all over the news, like talking a little bit of smack, but you never really see Julio in that conversation. I feel he just keeps his mouth shut. And I also appreciate that it seems like the team looks up to him a lot. When he scored his first touchdown in 2018, like, even people from the sidelines were coming to congratulate him. I'm like, dang, that's when like, everyone kind of looks up to him. And then obviously the two games I went to, like, Julio kind of won it for us. So I would say he's definitely my favorite.
In the Green Bay game I mentioned I was at, he went off, pretty much shut down the game with the long 70-yard touchdown. In the NFC Championship against the 49ers, like 7 catches for like 125 yards, 2 touchdowns. The guy shows up in big games to catch in the Super Bowl. He shows up in moments he's supposed to show up. You can cite the game against Philadelphia where he didn't catch the hard ball in the end zone. You can talk a lot. He doesn't catch enough touch passes, but the guy does everything for his team. He's double, triple covered sometimes in the red zone. If he can stay healthy the next few years, I don't see why he cannot remain an Atlanta Falcon. I just, I feel like him staying with us and this organization for the next 2 to 3 years, I don't see why that couldn't happen. So hopefully he does, but we'll see.
I think I think both he and the Falcons know how important it is to keep him because, like Julio, I'm pretty sure there was one time where someone asked him, like, are you interested in moving to another team? He's like, no, I know how important I am here. And then the Falcons know, like, if Julio is gone, there's going to be a lot of, I don't know about, because Calvin really did do great, but at the same time, it's like, we need Julio we need him pretty bad. And if they want to win a Super Bowl anytime soon, you definitely don't want to get rid of him.
No. I would be trying to keep Julio Jones. And, if you need to restructure the contract, try to restructure, but keep him an Atlanta Falcon as long as you can. If he's producing, if he's on the field, he's going to produce. So if he can just stay healthy, he'll be fine. And he can really help the offense out for the next few years. He's been in the league, a while now, but at the end of the day, this guy's got a few more seasons left in him. I know how he trains and, how well he tries to take care of his body. So he's definitely has a few good years left in the tank.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. 2 to 3 years. I think he's still going to be Julio Jones. I think he's going to be in the league for a little while than people think. I think people think his age is getting to him, but I think he's still got like a little more left in the tank.
Sure.
Alrighty. Well, going into the offseason, we picked up a lot of players, but I'll be honest with you, a lot of these players, I kind of don't really know who they are, but I guess in this section, we're going to ask what your thoughts are on all these guys. You don't have to, spend hours upon hours, but if you have like a short little stance on these guys, you don't have to worry about how long it takes to describe it. Just say what you know, don't know. If you don't know these players, I don't blame you. But
I know I'm about to try to pull them up, but if you just read them out, then I know a little bit about all of them.
I got a list of who they are.
Okay, cool.
I put them in order of when they got them. The first one is the punter, Dom Maggio. Don't know too much about him, but I hope he does his job.
Yeah, I think he was a punter at Wake Forest or something like that. So I think we've already drafted a punter last year, so I guess it's a guy you bring in try to compete with the punter we drafted last year. It's always nice to have a guy in case he gets injured, So you have a guy who's familiar with the team. So good signing, I guess. We'll see what happens. It's always nice to have another guy who has at least been in the building if the other punter, even if he's not with the team in the future, maybe he's a free agent. You can sign him if an injury happens. So good signing, I guess.
I agree too. You need special teams more than you think. Next player is tight end Lee Smith. I know he's a blocking tight end.
Yeah. Blocking tight end from the Buffalo Bills. So, a guy who Arthur Smith is going to have these 2 to 3 tight end sets. So, you have Hayden Hurst already. Hopefully we have Kyle Pitts, and then you got Lee Smith to, be that blocking tight end guy on the goal line who can possibly catch some play action passes here and there. And, a guy who was with a winning organization with the Buffalo Bills. So nice pickup. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Arthur wants to bring in a running game. He's going to need some blocking. Linebacker Brandon Copeland.
Yeah, Copeland's a guy who's been in the AFC East. I think he's with the Jets for a little bit, played with the Patriots last year. So he's a guy who, a lot of these players are going to be special teams players. They're going to play a lot of special teams, kickoff return, kickoff team, punt, all that good stuff. But he's maybe a guy who can come in on some, pass rushing situations and play outside linebacker. We already have 2 great linebackers right now. We could use we also drafted a young guy last year, so we can always use bodies. NFL season's now 17 games, so you're going to have, a lot of nicks here and there. So it's always nice to have some backups. So I feel like Copeland, he's made some plays, but over the years, so we'll see what he can do. But he'll come in and be a special teams guy, and if an injury happens, he could end up getting some valuable reps next year.
I can agree with that. Safety Eric Harris from the Raiders.
Yeah, Eric Harris is a guy, a little older guy. Terry Fontenot is familiar with him. I think he signed as a free agent with the Saints a few years ago, and then has been a safety with the Las Vegas Raiders the last 2 seasons. 2 years ago made a couple interceptions, took one back to the house. So he's a nice piece maybe as a backup, special team guy. Again, when the Raiders had some issues and some injuries, this guy stepped in and started. So I think he started 16 to 20 games or so the last 3 years. So, he started some games. It's nice to bring a veteran guy in, who, if you're going to draft a young safety, it's nice to have a guy who's been around for the last few years and it is familiar with the system. So, good signing by Eric Harris. These aren't big time names. The Atlanta Falcons don't have a lot of money. You don't have a lot of cash. You can't go get a bunch of thoroughbreds with pony money. So you got to get some of these guys to fill out the roster, and who can play special teams and be backups, and guys who are veterans, guys who aren't signing for a ton of money. So Eric Harris, a good a guy who has some experience. So. Not a starter probably, but guy who can be a 3rd, 4th safety and play some special teams. So welcome Eric Harris to Atlanta.
I can agree with that. I think he could be a bigger, weapon on the team than people might think, especially on special teams, because sometimes you need that, elite special teams player. Like a lot of people kind of laugh at it because it's like, what is that going to do? But it's like he could do more than you think. So I think that was a good signing.
Yeah. For sure. And he knows Terry Fontenot. So, that's another thing. Guys are going to have relationships with both of these new people. That's something to look out for.
Exactly. Linebacker Barcavius Mingodo. Not sure who that is, but
Mingo, yeah. Yeah, Barkarius Mingo, who's a linebacker out of LSU in college, was a high draft pick, number 6 overall. Bounced around. Actually played with the Patriots when they played in the with the Falcons in the Super Bowl. So he's played with like 6 teams in the last couple of years. He's another guy who had a lot of potential. Didn't really reach his potential. Bounced around a little bit, but still a veteran guy who's been around a bunch of different organizations and has seen a lot, been coached by a lot of good coaches. So another guy who's probably going to be a special teams guy, but who could come in and maybe hopefully get after the passer. I mean, we don't have a bunch of guys who do that right now. So maybe a guy who come in on third down and get a key sack here and there should compete for a roster spot. But just a veteran guy to add into the group in the locker room who's been around and won a Super Bowl and high draft pick. So, maybe, one of these coaches can maybe Dan Pease can get that out of him. And he can be a contributor.
I can agree with that. It's always nice to have a veteran presence on the team. And, maybe he could be a good coach for the newer guys coming in because he's been with a lot of coaches. He can learn a lot from them.
Yep.
All right. Now, this one is maybe the most excited I am for all the free agents. Running back Mike Davis.
Yeah, Mike Davison, the former Stevenson High School product out of Atlanta, played his college ball at South Carolina, bounced around a little bit in the league, had some good seasons with the Bears and the Seahawks. Obviously had his best season last year with the Panthers. This is a guy who can be a running back on third down, come in, kind of be your number 2 running back. If he's leaned on, if he's needed to be the number 1 guy, I think he can do it. But I think he's more suited for a 1-2 combo. Guy who, caught some balls out of the backfield last year with Carolina, filled in very nice for Christian McCaffrey. I'd still like the Atlanta Falcons to maybe look at, a running back possibly in the 2nd to 4th round. I'd also like for them to go defense that early too. So it's hard when, you need to build the defense, but, you have some of these players fall to you in the draft and they're at other areas. But, a guy like Javonte Williams, I think about North Carolina, Najee Harris, any of those guys fall to us at 35. I mean, it's going to be hard to pass up one of those guys. So I think Mike Davis is, a very nice piece. We also just signed Cordell Patterson, and they're listing him as a running back. The Falcons are. So that's another piece. He can be a kick returner, punt returner. Can also, have these gadget plays, take some carries. So Mike Davis and Cordell Patterson, some veteran guys, been in the league for a while. Mike Davis is from Atlanta, so I like the fit. It's a good signing. I know a lot of people weren't that happy about it, but at the end of the day, I don't know why, you can't give the guy a chance. He's a veteran guy. He runs hard. You've never heard bad things about him. I mean, every team he goes to, they love him. So I feel like Mike Davis is a good addition to the Falcons.
I think he is too. I really like that signing. I agree that I don't think he's necessarily the running back number 1, but I think he could be a good running back number 2. He could be good, in the passing game as well because I think he's pretty shifty. And with Cordell Patterson, they're listing him as a running back. It'll be interesting to see what Arthur can do here. He kind of knows how to utilize running backs a little bit. So, and then one thing I also like is he's in love with his hometown, Atlanta. So I don't know, maybe that'll make him, play harder than he does. I don't know, but yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's always nice nice when players are, from the state of Georgia and they get to see family and, get to play in front of a bunch of friends and family. I mean, feel like that's always a good addition. I mean, I always look for the Falcons to look for guys who are local products and around this area. I mean, it's always nice to bring those kind of guys in.
Yeah, I agree with that. You play a lot harder when you are in front of people and I think he'll be pretty good for us. Now, he is a running back. I don't know if he'll be here for too long. Running backs usually are here for like a year or 2, but I think when he's here, he'll do a lot of good things.
Good signing. I like the signing.
Yeah, I did too. like a lot of people were kind of like, I don't know about that, but I thought it was a good signing.
Yeah.
Um,
For what they got him for, I mean, the money, they don't have a lot of money. So, like I said, you can't go spend a lot of money if you don't have it.
yeah, don't don't spend money that you don't have. But I think that was a good signing there from Fontenot. And I think this next one was a good signing too. The defensive back Fabien Moreau. I don't know if he's like necessarily a star, but I think he could do some nice things for us, kind of like Darquez Denard. Like he might not have been like a star, but I think he could do some good things.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked Denard last year when he was in. I mean, he did some nice things. Like you said, he's another veteran guy, played for the Washington football team last year. And, that defense was really good. I think this is a guy who's going to come in and compete in the slot. Another guy who used to play, I think, for the Saints back in the day. So I think he's played with Dan Pease, or he has a connection to Fontenot, one of those guys. So I know he's with the Washington football team, a guy who's, I think, played a lot in the slot. So I'm excited to see what he can do. This secondary needs some weapons. Outside of A.J. Terrell, it's kind of thin. We have Isaiah Oliver. We have, the former Ohio State corner as well. And they're kind of unproven guys right now. So I wouldn't mind them drafting some guys in the secondary. But he brings in, he can come in and play slot. So that's another guy who can, come in, and it's going to be a pretty young secondary back there. Nice to have who has reps in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he'll do some pretty cool things for us. The next one, the offensive lineman Josh Andrews. I don't really know anything about him, but I think he played for the Jets.
Yeah, he's a guy just to add some depth in. Could probably be a backup for the Falcons if he makes a roster. So, another guy. You can't never have too many bodies on the offensive line. So,
yeah,
a good addition, I guess. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Defensive tackle Jonathan Bullard.
Yeah, I really honestly don't know too much about him. So,
yeah, me neither.
welcome to the Atlanta Falcons. I know a lot about the other guys, but not sure about not gonna sit here and say I do. So
yeah, me neither. Welcome to the team.
Yeah.
Tight end Ryan Becker. Another guy I'm not.
Yeah, Becker. I read a little article about him. He was a former college standout. So we'll see what he does. I think he's more of a blocking guy, but catch balls out of the backfield. So doesn't mean we're necessarily not going to pick a tight end in the draft, but we are stockpiling on some tight ends. So we'll see how many make the roster in the fall.
I think Arthur's trying to build, what he did in Tennessee. Because if Ryan Becker's more of a blocking tight end and Lee Smith, I think he's definitely want to get, one of the bigger running backs. Because I think he's got the blocking tight ends, but now he's probably going to look for, I don't know when in the draft, but somewhere in the draft, probably a bigger running back. Because he knows that the running backs we have are no Derrick Henry, and you're never really gonna get the exact replica of that, but he wants something similar. So I think the Ryan Becker was a fine signing. We'll see where it goes. And then we talked about Cordell Patterson. Unless I know he's a kick returner, punt returner, and a running back, but I think that was a good signing. And then there was one more person we got. I'm trying to remember who he was. I think it was a safety, and his name was, what was his name? Duron Harmon.
I think we just signed him the other day. I think he's a running back though. I thought he was a running back. Maybe I saw the news by the Post, the Atlanta Falcons. So welcome to the team. I really hope Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith are building this roster right. I mean, you can only do so much with the Ross situation. Arthur Smith went on a podcast recently talking about, the money situation. So still have to sign 9 draft picks as well.
Yeah.
And it could be more. You end up trading out of spots. You could get more spots. You could trade up and not have to sign 9 guys. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We really won't know till after the draft.
Yeah, I think that too. Leading up to all of those free agent signings, my next question is, overall, how do you feel Terry Fontenot did in his first season as an NFL GM, off-season as an NFL GM?
Well, I can only say what how he's done so far. At the end of the day, we really won't know how he did until a few years from now, really. So what he's going to be able to do. Also, how these guys pan out in the next few years. It's always hard to kind of, tell how a guy did. Also, he was left with, Thomas Dimitroff left him with, not an ideal cap situation. So I'm going to wait a little bit to, especially depending on who he drafts and, how they pan out in the next few years. So, I do give him, probably like, with what he had to do, what he had, probably a B, B plus, something like that. Did not a bunch of marquee signings, didn't go out and get, I really wanted the safety John Johnson out of LA, who went to the Cleveland Browns. I mean, that was a guy I really, really wanted. I mean, there's some pass rushers out there that, I kind of wanted, but at the end of the day, you don't have a lot of money, you can't spend it. So They got with what they could. So with that being said, I'll give him a B, but hopefully he knocked out of the park. I mean, this pick, the Atlanta Falcons, is so important, not only to the entire draft, but with the Atlanta Falcons' entire organization. That's where this whole, everyone's been stuck on. The draft is they have 9 picks. It's more than one round, but it's just so fascinating. I don't remember a draft where maybe 4 quarterbacks can go with the top 4, and the Falcons have the 4th pick. And basically, the keys to the draft that they could pick Pitts and get the best player. They could pick Sewell and get the lineman. They could trade back and get Surtain. They could get Field. I mean, there's so many things they could do, and everyone thinks they know what is right, or everyone thinks they know what they're going to do, but no one really knows what they're going to do.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Except for maybe a couple people, but
yeah, I agree.
It's very important. So I'll judge Terry what he does in this draft.
I think a B is a good grade for someone that had to work with very little cap space. I think I think he signed some, not any big time names, not, how do I say it? Not any famous names, but I think the players we got, I kind of like Mike Davis. I like Eric Harris, even Lee Smith and Fabien Moreau, Cordell Patterson. I think all of those guys could be good fits. So I think a B is a good grade for Terry Fontenot's first offseason. Is there any free agents that you would like the Falcons to target, or would you just kind of leave it alone?
I mean, at this point, depending on what happens, I mean, you could always wait a little bit closer to training camp, see if any guys become available. Injuries may happen. So, I mean, at this point, they are signing guys a little bit here and there. I mean, I didn't really expect them to sign Cordell Patterson, so maybe they could sign a guy. But, with 2 weeks left in the draft, I kind of focus more around the draft right now and the undrafted free agents. I mean, that's a really big key every year to organizations. Undrafted free agents make rosters every single year. So, trust your scouting department and, look for these guys who are diamonds in the rough. Yes, you can talk about the top 100, top 150 players, but at the end of the day, you're going to be looking for, the 300th best player in the draft who should be in that top 100. I mean, you're looking – there's guys every year. Jacksonville had an undrafted running back, James Robinson, start and rush for 1,000 yards last year. I mean, you can find guys like that. So, not only do the Atlanta Falcons have to nail the draft picks, they have to do their due diligence with the undrafted guys and form these relationships in the draft process.
Yeah, I agree with that. The draft is super, super critical. Like that's gonna do a lot for this team heading forward. Not even just this year. So he's got to make a big decision on if he wants to trade down, if he wants to stay put. It's for a first year general manager, he's got a big decision. But I trust he'll do the right thing. Actually, leading into the next question. Now, I think I have a good understanding of how you feel about a quarterback, but do you think the Atlanta Falcons should stay put at 4 and get a non-quarterback, or do you think they should trade down?
Yeah. I mean, it really just depends. My whole thing has been all along Detroit at 7, we're at 9. Either of those two teams could give up, possible first-round picks, more than one, maybe 2 first-round picks, a second or a third, and you get 3 draft picks and you only move back 5 spots. That is something I would seriously have to consider. Now, if you're sold on Kyle Pitts, at the end of the day, you draft Kyle Pitts at 4. I'm cool with that. I would be totally fine with that. I would hate for him to go to, maybe Carolina at 8 or something like that. If you were to trade back to 9, that would be, and he ends up in the division, or, he ends up with Miami, who's building a nice roster down there. And now they have this explosive offense. So, it would be tough to pass on Kyle Pitts. But here's the thing. If Justin Fields falls to number 4, I mean, it's going to be a pressure cooker on Thursday night, the 28th, because who knows what's going to happen. I mean, if it goes like people think it's going to go, Lawrence, Wilson, and then somehow Jones does go 3rd, I mean, you're talking about, teams who could jump up and trade with the Falcons and get either a Trey Lance or a Field, and you get a bunch of draft picks. You could do that. Or you could say, hey, I want to pick a Justin Fields, who I have number 6 on my big board. I have him as a 6th overall player, 3 overall quarterback, 6 on my board. So, I like Justin Fields. It's not that I don't like him. I just think that Matt Ryan is perfectly capable right now. Now, do you draft a quarterback, mid-rounds? Possibly, yes. But I could understand why they go quarterback because of Terry Fontenot, Arthur Smith, want to get their new guy in there. These guys have a lot of intangibles, that translate to the NFL. Justin Fields has always been a top quarterback, and Lance has all the tools. At a smaller program, doesn't have as many starts. But I get why you can be infatuated with one of those guys. But if I'm really truly picking the best player available, Kyle Pitts is the best player available at 4, and you pick him. If you could trade 7, 9, possibly you could do that. New England at 15, Bears at 20, Washington at 19. Those are the teams to watch out for, guys. Detroit 7, Denver 9, 15 with New England, 19 with Washington, and 20 with the Bears. Those are the teams we should look out for. Those are the teams we should answer the call for. But we'll see what happens. Either way, guys, I will support no matter what happens. Whoever they pick, I'll support. Whoever Terry picks, I will support them. I will give them, the benefit of the doubt in their first season, and we'll see what happens. But, guys, it could go any which direction. Honestly, it could go either way. I would love a trade back, get Surtain at 8, at 7 or 9. Feel like he's the best corner in the draft. You pair him with A.J. Terrell. Then you get additional draft picks. Maybe you trade back in and get a guy who falls. I mean, there's so many possibilities. So, very excited for the draft. I could talk about this literally all day. But at the end of the day, I'm trusting what they do. And if it were up to me, Kyle Pitts would be the guy. If Fields falls to you at 4, you could trade him for a king's ransom or pick him, let him sit for a couple of years. You trade back, maybe get Surtain or a top defender in the draft. So there's all kind of ways it could go. But, man, Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, Hayden Hurst, Mike Davis, possibly another running back. that's a scary offense right there with Arthur Smith, who's done a heck of a job calling plays for the Tennessee Titans. So I feel like Matt Ryan's about to play some really good football next year, and everyone should just stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think one thing Arthur Blank was kind of thinking about hiring Arthur Smith is, the last time they went to the Super Bowl, and I guess you could argue the 1998 Super Bowl as well, but definitely 2016. I think the Super Bowl and why they went there was definitely a little more on offense, and I think Arthur Blank is kind of trying to see if what they did last time will work now. And if I were Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith, I would definitely consider wanting to upgrade that offense as much as you can with Kyle Pitts because, while the offense might already be great, why not, bring it to a higher standard? Because I think that's what the Falcons do to get super successful. Like, that's what they did to get to that Super Bowl. So why not just do what worked?
Yeah.
The only reason I can maybe understand a quarterback at 4 is because you want a backup quarterback with upside, because if Matt Ryan goes down and you don't have any backup with upside, then your chances would be done. So it's like I would understand a quarterback at 4, but if you're looking at Kyle Pitts available at 4, I feel there's pretty much no need to pass on him. I would also kind of understand Penei Sewell because you need to upgrade the left guard, but I think Kyle Pitts is not only who I think they'll draft, but I think that's who they should draft. I feel that's a pretty obvious, pick there for Terry Fontenot.
Yeah, and if he is Travis Kelce, with which a lot of people compare him to, wouldn't you want to have a Travis Kelce on your football team? I mean, it's pretty obvious. You want a tight end who can, catch touchdown passes in clutch situations, and Kyle Pitts is basically a wide receiver at tight end. I mean, he is a freak athlete, and I mean he's just getting started, and he's. I think we've seen some good things from him. I think you're only going to see him improve at the next level. I mean, he's that good. Probably the best tight end I've ever scouted or looked at. In my I've been keeping up with the draft since 1998. He's probably the best tight end prospect that I can remember in the 23 years, 22 years it has been.
Some people are saying he's an immediate Hall of Famer. I'm like, geez, I guess he's that good. But yeah, I hope so.
I'll slow the roll on that. But I mean, if the guy can go in there and he can catch touchdown passes and he can, Tony Gonzalez type guy that Matt Riley on in his career, Joe Jones, and you have to decide, who do I stop? Do I stop Pitts, Ridley, Jones? Are they going to run the ball? What's going to happen? And so you really get the defense off balance. And if you go tight end early, defense needs to be addressed early. I get that too, but that's when one of these running backs who are, I have 3 top running backs in my top 32. All of them could slide out of the first round. So I could see 3 go in the first round. I could see them all slide. If one of these guys falls to you at 35, do you pick them, or do you get one of these safeties, or, there's all kind of things you can do in this draft. So I'd love to see, a running back selected early, and also, a safety, cornerback. There's the offensive line class is very deep. Wide receiver, offensive line guys, I'm telling y'all, are very deep in this draft. So those need to be addressed as well. Maybe a wide receiver late, offensive lineman a little bit earlier. So, man, it's been fun covering this draft. This is my 3rd straight draft I've been covering, making big boards, making mock drafts, watching a lot of tape. And, it's a fun process. I really enjoy it. So,
yeah, this is the most interesting draft we've entered in a while. There's a lot of trade down talks, QB talks. Like, it's pretty crazy. Now, when it comes to trading down, I feel you wouldn't really care how far they trade down, if they're trading down all the way to the Bears or the Washington football team, or if they're not trading too far down with maybe the Lions. But if you were the GM, how far would you trade down? Like, would you want to trade down as far as you could or not too far down?
I wouldn't want to go, but like I said, I wouldn't want to go past 20 Chicago. Feel like I don't want to go any further than that. And Washington would have to, I mean, Washington or Chicago would have to give up a ton to move up with me. I mean, I'm not talking about I'm talking about like 4 to 5 picks and like 2 to 3 first round. I mean, that's literally what they'd have to give up. Denver or Detroit wouldn't have to give up as much to move up, just a few spots. But I feel like, you could get 2 to 3 first rounders with anywhere from 15 to 20. Or at least, maybe 2 first rounders, 2 second rounders, or 2 third rounders. You'd have to give up a lot. I like the position we're in. That's why I'm saying, like, I'm cool with picking at 4, but if you can reshape the franchise, get a couple first-round picks, maybe move one of those picks and get another guy you like this year, then you're cooking with something. So, and you're not having to give up first-round picks. You're being able to have first-round picks. Then you're able to maneuver and do things, and you have all these additional, 5th and 6th-round picks this year. You can package those and move back up too. So, you got to be smart. There's a reason, these guys are in positions they know what they're doing, hopefully. If not, they can give me a call. But, at the end of the day, you gotta be smart. You gotta maneuver. You gotta spend your money wisely, and you gotta get players who can fit your system and your goals for the future.
Yep, I agree with that. I also agree with you when you say if they trade down, not too far down. I actually agree that Surtain is the best available option for them. Like, you really, really need to upgrade that corner situation as possible, because not only do you want someone to work alongside AJ Terrell, but I feel like Surtain, he's one of the better corners coming out of the draft I've seen in a while. So it's kind of like, why not pick up one of the better players available? And also, apparently the Falcons are good with Alabama players, so I don't know.
Yeah. He was built. AJ Surtain was built for this. His dad was a 2-3-time All-Pro with the Dolphins. Played at LSU. He was very, very good. I've been keeping up with Surtain for a couple of years now, since he was in high school. And let's just get it straight. He didn't make as many plays this year at Alabama because people didn't throw his way. Okay, he didn't make a bunch of plays because people just simply stayed away from him. He only had 1 interception. Guess what he did with it? He took it to the house. So at the end of the day, he has very good technique. He's a good player. The guy is, if you see him, that's what you want your cornerbacks in the NFL. The guy's huge. He's like 6'2", can run well, 215. I love Surtain at that 7 to 9 spot. If they were to go corner, I would be very, very happy. Pitts or Surtain is my favorite picks. Or trading out and getting a bunch of picks. Or, like I said, if they get Fields or Lance, I understand it, and I wouldn't be as upset as some other people. I think that you need to build with what you got right now, and a guy sitting on the bench for a few years isn't going to help you, and you're taking them that early in the draft. So there's other options. There'll be other times to pick a quarterback, people. If you think Matt Ryan's so bad anyways, then you'll have another high draft pick again, right? People's logic with it just doesn't make sense. There'll be other times to pick quarterback, free agents. There's this next year's draft class is going to be very good too. So people say this year's is the best ever. It's good, but 2018 was good. 2012 was good. 2011 was very good. So a lot of good draft classes. 1983. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, I agree that I'm probably not going to try and, shred whoever the pick is, because I kind of understand the logic behind all of them. Like, if you got Kyle Pitts, I totally understand it. If you get Penei Sewell, I understand it. Trading down to get Surtain or whoever else you want to get if you trade down, I understand it. Even a quarterback, I mean, yeah, he probably wouldn't play. You know, I can see why it wouldn't make sense, but I kind of see why it makes sense too, because you want a backup with upside. But I've also kind of seen some interesting comments that the Falcons should go Kyle Trask later down, like maybe the 3rd round, 4th round. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple guys I like in the later rounds. Kyle Trask, he's my number 6 overall quarterback. I have Kellerman in my top 100 players. He's my number 7 quarterback. Davis Mills from Stanford, a Georgia guy who played his football at Greater Atlanta Christian in Georgia. So Davis Mills went to Stanford. He's a guy who is a really top quarterback. You know, only has like 11 starts though. He's a guy who people are starting to talk a lot more about. So, you know, Cal Trask, Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, any one of those 3, you know, in the later rounds, I'd be okay with. But I'd rather just start to build the offensive line or the defensive line, grab a running back, grab a safety, grab a corner. I mean, there's other positions I draft before. I mean, you can get you a late round guy, you know, maybe to, you know, be a project quarterback and then sign one of these veteran guys who's been on 7 or 8 teams who can be a backup, you know. So that's my thoughts on it. But yeah, Kyle Trask, I mean, this is a guy who has, you know, put up good numbers in the SEC. Kellerman, 4-year starter. Davis Mills has a lot of potential. So, you know, those are 3 other names to look out for too. So, I mean, you can see 8 quarterbacks go in the top 100 picks, which would be wild. So,
yeah, I think so too. Is there any need for the Falcons entering the draft that you feel a lot of people are kind of like, you know, not looking at, or do you think it's all kind of pretty clear?
I mean, you know, a lot of people say the offensive line. I don't think they need multiple picks on the offensive line. You know, adding an offensive lineman would be needed. I think we could do a running back. Also, you know, it'd be nice to, like I said, get a young cornerback in there. We're going to need a safety. You know, we lost Keanu Neal and Ricardo Allen, so we lost both of our safeties, and we drafted, you know, Hawkins last year, a young guy. But safety, Richie Grant, a guy out of UCF. He's my favorite one of my favorite safeties in this draft. Possibly Richard LeCount from UGA. You know, you have the free athlete out of FSU who's a safety who come in and do some nice things. So corner, safety, you know, edge rusher. I mean, Falcons need an edge rusher. This really isn't the edge rusher draft class per se. But, you know, at the end of the day, maybe they can get a guy who they can develop and he can come in and give valuable reps. I mean, the Falcons team has holes everywhere. So you can't really just point it at one spot. I mean, offensive line, defensive line, edge rusher, safety, corner, running back, quarterback. I mean, I mentioned pretty much every position. So they could use the things. Not that, you know, we don't have a nice core. You know, you have a nice core, but you have to really build this whole roster. So that's why I think adding some of these older veterans on these free, pretty cheap contracts is a good idea.
Yeah, I think so too. Every position on the Falcons, pretty much none of it is just set in stone to be good, you know, in the future. Because I think everywhere, like, I agree. I don't know. I agree that you don't really need to upgrade offensive line, like, you know, that much, but you could still help the left guard situation. And then, you know, with the edge rush, this might not be the best class for edge rush, but you still need help. I totally agree with all of it. And I think the biggest problem as a whole, I think that kind of goes to safety, because it's like, who do we have at safety, you know? But hopefully they pick up a good safety, because we are definitely in need of that. I don't know if Eric Harris and Jalen Hawkins are, you know, just set to go in 2021, but you know, we'll see what they do.
They'll probably both be backups, so we probably don't even have a starting safety on the roster.
I think so.
That's just my thinking of it. Jalen Hawkins, wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Hawkins maybe was a starter, since they like him a lot. They drafted him in the 4th round last year. But definitely look. I mean, they're going to definitely draft a starting safety in this draft. So, it'd be good to get one pretty early. So we'll see what happens. Like Richie Grant, guys. Like if y'all watching this, watch Richie Grant on tape, man. He's huge. Guy can fly around. UCF had like one of the best secondaries in all of college football this year. They have some really good talent in that secondary. So he's a player that the more I watch on him, the more I like him. But Surtain's my guy. That's my number one corner. A lot of people like J.C. Horn, but I'm a Patrick Surtain guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll keep an eye out on the Richie Grant because I've heard a lot of things about him. I kind of have a good idea of who he is, but I think I might need to look back.
Go watch about 10 minutes of his clips, and you'll be a Richie Grant guy too. I promise you. He's a playmaker.
Yeah, I think getting Richie Grant maybe early 2nd round. I feel like that could be like a plus right there.
Yes, 2nd to 3rd round. I mean, he's definitely going to go in that probably 35 to 45 range, maybe 40, 35 to 55 range, somewhere right there. So, but that's another thing. Like you can always trade back in. Like you can trade back in if guys fall. If a position is starting to get taken and guys fall, you can trade back in and not have to give up too much. So you have some additional 5th round picks. So you could throw in, a 5th and that round pick, and you can move up. So we'll see what happens.
I think no matter what happens, though, I think Terry Fontenot will build a pretty good team here. I think I think a lot of people are kind of exaggerating the Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot can't decide if they want a quarterback. I don't know if that's like as big of drama as people make it out to be. I think I have a good understanding of what team they're trying to build. Arthur Smith wants to bring in a good offense. Terry Fontenot wants to help out with the pieces on offense, but he wants to build in kind of a defense New Orleans had. So I think they're working together just fine, but it'll be interesting no matter who they draft. But
yeah, I mean, these are 2 alpha dogs too. I mean, so Terry Fontenot, this is his first job. This is his first GM. He wants to put his footprint in on this rebuild and everything with the new organization. Arthur Smith, you hear him talk. He's an alpha male as well. So just 2 guys that just because they aren't on the same page doesn't mean they won't be. And it's okay to disagree sometimes. People always get upset with people who disagree. Like even on Falcons Twitter, like yes, you don't have to agree with everything I'm saying or even agree. At the end of the day, you can still respect that fact that I have an opinion, you have an opinion. We can go on our day and not argue on social media. So at the end of the day, they'll get it right. They'll do what they need to do. So confident in them too.
I agree with that. It's I feel they're not really making a big deal out of how they don't agree with each other. It's just kind of like, let's work together. I think, and I agree with what you said on social media. It's no big deal. It happens. No need to have it ruin the bond, and just kind of work together and see what can happen. But with all that being said, that actually answered all my questions. That's all I have for you today. Do you have any questions for me?
No, man. I appreciate you having me on your channel, and I wanted to just let everyone know where they could find my stuff, guys. I'm basically anywhere you get Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio app, YouTube, Twitter as well at Kick It With Pro, guys. I'm from the Kicking It With Prouder podcast. My website as well is now up. So basically you can find, I'll put this interview on my website, so you'll be able to check it out. You basically just type in www.kickingitwithprouder.com. You can see all my content in one spot, guys. So y'all check it out. And thank y'all so much for having me today. I really appreciate it, man.
Well, we're thankful for having you on the show. Would be interested in collabing again, maybe after the draft, going over our thoughts or, something like that. But yeah, I had a blast. Thank you for.
Yeah, for sure, man. I love to come on again.
Yeah, it was fun, and I think we're both on the same page on whoever the Falcons draft. We're A-okay with it. We'll just see where it goes. But
exactly, man. That's the best way to be, man. You can never judge it too early. So.
I learned that last year. Like I will admit I was, ripping on AJ Terrell because I wanted now I'm forgetting his name, but Trevon Diggs. I wanted Trevon Diggs, and then I was like, AJ Terrell, I don't know. And then, after I saw how he did last year, I'm like, okay, I've learned my lesson. I'm not gonna judge who they get.
Yeah, no, he played really well, and he's a competitor, and he's a Atlanta product. So I feel like he's gonna be a nice piece moving forward. So
yeah,
good pick.
Me too. Hopefully he's a top 5 corner next year. Hopefully, but we'll see.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
But that's all I had. Thank you for joining my show, and thank you, Falcons Nation, for listening to us. And draft night is coming close. Let's all prepare for what's going to happen, because I feel social media might get pretty social media might get nasty, but for me and for Tyler, we'll be A-okay.
Yep.
But yeah, thank you for joining.
Appreciate it, man.